So with the X-Men heading over to the MCU, the big speculation is what villains will also be attached with the X-Men. And we have our favorite X-Men villains, but I have one in particular that I want to talk to you about. This is the backstory of Mr. Sinister. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Nerd News with your host Chris Chavez. That's me. And this is a show created for nerds by a nerd. If you don't know I'm a nerd, then just look to my left, your right. So a few episodes ago, I did my fan casting X-Men episode on who I think should play the X-Men in the MCU. If you didn't get a chance to check out that episode, you should definitely give it a gander. It's pretty good. I like my choices, but I want to know what you think on that one. And I wanted to do another episode about the X-Men in the MCU, but more specifically villains, or in this case, villain. And I thought, you know what, let's combine a fan casting, that's right. At the end of this backstory, I'm going to talk about who I think should play this character should he be in the MCU. So before we get into the backstory of this really, really cool character, you know the drill, guys. And if this is your first time clicking on my channel here, well, you should keep on clicking that like and that subscribe and the notification bell so that you are notified of all the episodes as we create them. That's right, they all help me. This is the editor. Sinestro's the editor. Now, before we dive into his backstory, let's just say, just put out the record, the X-Men have the best villains next to Spider-Man. So there's a ton of really cool villains to choose from, but Mr. Sinister has one of my favorite backstories. And plus, we haven't seen him on the big screen yet, so there's a great, just new land, you know, a new just meat for an actor to kind of chomp on, because they're the first person to actually take on this role, and well, it should happen. It needs to happen. It'll happen. And like I mentioned, stay tuned to the end of the episode and I will give you my pick as to what actor I think should play Mr. Sinister. All right, so let's get into it. So we're going to talk about Nathan Essex, aka Mr. Sinister. So Mr. Sinister, he was born in the 19th century in Victoria, England. England. I remember having a great time in England. That's not an English accent, let's move on. So during this time, he was well known as the most prolific scientist in the world at that time. Like, this was the man. Like, he was like the Elon Musk in this timeline. Yeah, we're going to go with Elon Musk. But some people had a split perception on him. Some claimed that he was the best scientist ever, the greatest mind of his generation. Other people say he was a little bit too dangerous with the amount of knowledge that he possesses. Also, the man was a clear definition of, he pretty much defined the word workaholic. So, would you like some tea and crumpets? I'm working, thank you. So, would you like to get up for some air? No, I don't like breathing. Workaholic. Now, Nathan was head over heels for his wife, Rebecca, and his lovely son. They were his world, his life, and everything revolved around them, except for his work. His work came first, his family came second, which it should be the other way around. You know, just saying. But tragedy struck Nathan and his family when his son died of birth defects. This just threw Nathan for a complete whirlwind, right? He was not just so obsessed and upset that his son died, he wanted to figure out why it happened and how he could prevent it from happening again to others. So much of the fact where he took his son's body and started using it for experiments to figure out, you know, why he died. Nathan dedicated his life's work to figuring out this problem. So much to a point where he built almost like a Frankenstein monster to kind of figure out what's going on. He presented it to a bunch of colleagues. They called him absolutely crazy and a madman. Rightfully so, because that's pretty much how Frankenstein started, and we know how well that worked out now, didn't we? Now, Rebecca had no idea that this was going on. She just thought, my husband's grieving, he's doing his own thing, I get it, I'm going through my stuff. Over time, they kind of patched things up a little bit, and they were pregnant again, and they were going to have a new baby. Life was starting to be good, things were starting to get back on track. Yeah. Now, during this whole time before they got pregnant again, Nathan was approached by a man that said, you know, if you let me help you, I can give you specific skills, specific tools that can help you, not just with what you're going through now, but to make you a little bit more of a dangerous man down the road. Intrigued, Nathan was like, maybe, let me get back to you on that one. The mysterious man was like, okay, I'll be over here. That was him, like, mysteriously leaving. But what Nathan didn't realize, that the man was actually Apocalypse. That's right, this guy. No, not that guy. This guy. See, Apocalypse could change his form, not like the stupid Apocalypse movie that we got, which ruined that character completely. But that's a different video. But Apocalypse changes his form to try to make him one of his lackeys that he does. So Rebecca went into labor, as one does when they're pregnant. And during the pregnancy, she lost the baby and she herself was dying. With everything that was going on and everything that was continuing to go on, Nathan was never there, yet again, a workaholic. And on her dying bed, her last breath, she said one word. She called him Sinister. Imagine that, the last words you hear is, "You're sinister." That's a bad dying scene. So Nathan at this point, gone. Like, all logic, my family's dead. Literally, my family's dead. What do? I'm gonna go back to that man and say, you know what? Yeah, I'll take your offer. So Nathan did just that. After he says, yes, I agree to your terms, Apocalypse finally showed his true form, which freaked Nathan out. Nathan was then tied to a chair and put into this device that, made him into something that we know today. So in turn, Apocalypse got to create him and actually rebirth him, if you will, which is exactly what he did to Archangel and some other characters. Even Wolverine at one point was part of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So at this point, that was the death of Nathan Essex and the birth of Mr. Sinister. And after the whole procedure was completely done, what happened to Apocalypse? Poof! He disappeared. He was gone. He was like, see you, Felicia. Mr. Sinister was left to his own, and from that point on, he was a bad guy. He was a bad guy. But that's a short story of Mr. Sinister. Now, with this character, we got a small hint that he was coming, not to the MCU, but when Fox still owned the rights to Xmen. And I think the scene was at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, there was a briefcase with serum in it, and on the briefcase, it said Essex Corpse. And so, Nathan Essex, blah, 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 you get it. But if we are to see him in the MCU, I think he is a perfect villain to start the franchise. Think about Marvel. They take characters that aren't well known and make them well known. If you've read the comics or watched the animated series that's on Disney Plus, or when you're a kid, then you really don't know that much of Mr. Sinister. So he's a perfect starting point for the X-Men, a good villain that can kind of continue going on down the line. I think he's a great start, like I said. Now let's move on to casting, shall we? So as of now, there is one actor that did voice his interest in playing said Nathan Essex, and that actor is Bryan Cranston. Now, Bryan Cranston has a big soft place in my heart because he is an amazing actor, and Breaking Bad is one of the greatest TV shows ever. And they asked him, why do you want to play this specific role? And he said exactly what I said at the beginning of this episode. He said, no one else has played that character. It's untouched territory, so I can play and do as I want. The man's got a point. Although, if I had my choice, he would be Lex Luthor. Let's just be honest. But as much as I love Bryan Cranston, which I do, and I would be totally fine if he took on the role, there is one man that I think would be better than Mr. Cranston. Now, the actor that I'm choosing to be Mr. Sinister is Richard E. Grant. Now, Richard has a really long list of movies that he's been in. He's one of those actors where oh, that guy. But he has this cool, calm demeanor with the edge of being a madman, and he looks at you and he has this stare that it makes you a little uneasy. Obviously, he is an older actor, and I know they're casting for younger people in the MCU, but Mr. Sinister is completely blue, so he's gonna have either a ton of makeup or a mixture of makeup and CGI, or it's just gonna be complete CGI, like let's say Davy Jones, for example. So really, any actor could play this role, but I just think the presence that Richard brings to his roles in previous films would transcend perfectly into a character who is just broken down on his luck, literally sold his soul to the devil, and it's perfect. It's a perfect match. Now, the crazy thing about Richard is he is actually tapped to play the role. Now, I did do a deep dive into other actors that I think might work for this character, like Mark Strong was on that list, but Richard E. Grant, it just keeps going back to him, and obviously Marvel's feeling the same way. So if that happens, fantastic. If Bryan Cranston happens to be in that role, I'm fine with that as well. But Richard, you're my man. You're my Mr. Sinister. Make it happen, Marvel. But guys, that's the short backstory of Mr. Sinister. Let me know if you like this villain, or let me know what your favorite X-Men villain is in the comments below. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with me, and until next time guys, in this crazy world that we live in, smile, make someone laugh, give someone a hug, watch a good movie. Just be positive, look forward to the future, and let's live our lives and let's have a great time doing it.
All right, are you guys done? I gotta edit. God, I really hate editing.